Benjamin Taylor, we have a warrant for your arrest. Come out with your hands up. Bang out. Taylor, it's the sheriff's office. Come out with your hands up. Taylor, if you're inside the blue tent, come out with your hands up. It's the sheriff's office. It's got a zipper. It's right there. Now! Come out!
Do not.
Come out! Crawl!
Not
Start crawling!
Get your hands out from under your waist.
March 15th, a date that would change everything. A mother, only 22 years old, and her two young children, one just 4 years old, the other a mere 7 months old, are found dead. The person who took their lives, someone they trusted, someone who should have been there to protect them. Benjamin Taylor, her boyfriend, was arrested soon after the bodies were discovered. Why would someone she loved do this? Why did he end their lives in such a brutal, heartless way? What led to this moment of unimaginable horror? Stick around, because the answers might shock you.
Listen, you friends. Jesus is in charge of everything that's going on right now. We can't do no more than what expected. So y'all just keep praying for us. Have mercy on each and every one of us. And God bless you. And may this be over soon. And I thank y'all.
Say your name. Could you say and spell your name for us?
Yes, my name is Ramona Renee Johnson, R-A-M-O-N-A. Johnson, J-O-H-N-S-O-N.
And your relationship?
I am the grandmother of my daughter, Markeisha, and the grandmother of Markayla. And
Before we get deeper into this case, I want you to take a moment and think about something. Can you even begin to imagine what would drive someone to hurt the people they once loved? Could someone really go that far? Could a man who was supposed to be a protector take the lives of a mother and her children? What do you think would make someone do something like this? Was it a moment of anger, or was there something deeper, something more troubling in the background? Leave a comment below. Share your thoughts with us, because the truth behind this case is something that might make you question everything you thought you knew about trust, love, and betrayal. Markayla Johnson, a 22-year-old mother, had a life filled with hope. She had two young children, Miracle, a lively 4-year-old, and Messiah, a precious 7-month-old. But in January 2024, the world as they knew it suddenly changed. Markayla stopped responding to her family, and the last time anyone heard from her was weeks before the tragedy would unfold. By March, her family was forced to file a missing persons report, desperately searching for answers. What they didn't know, what no one could have expected, was that Markayla's ex-boyfriend, Benjamin Taylor, a man she trusted, had been hiding something. In those weeks, Benjamin Taylor, who lived with Markayla and her children, was carrying a deadly secret. The investigation into their disappearance would soon uncover a horror no one was prepared for. Markayla Johnson grew up in the heart of Charlotte, North Carolina, a small but vibrant city that holds a deep sense of community. It was here that Markayla's story began, where she spent her childhood, surrounded by family and friends who knew her as a bright, caring soul. From a young age, Markayla was known for her warmth and her infectious smile, qualities that made her easy to love. As she grew older, her passion for family only deepened. Markayla loved being a mother more than anything. Her children, Miracle and Messiah, were her world. She was devoted to them, always putting their needs first. Despite the challenges she faced, Markayla maintained a strong sense of hope and joy, traits that defined her life. In addition to being a loving mother, Markayla had a few hobbies that kept her grounded. She loved taking long walks through the parks of Charlotte, often with her children by her side. Nature was her escape. Whether it was taking in the fresh air or simply enjoying a peaceful moment by the water, Markela found solace in the simple beauty of life. She also had a passion for cooking. Friends and family often remember how she could whip up a meal with whatever she had on hand, always making it taste like it came from a five-star restaurant. Her meals were a reflection of who she was, nurturing, thoughtful, and always willing to share what she had with others. But Markela's love for life didn't stop there. She enjoyed spending time with friends, laughing, and making memories. She was the type of person who could lift a room with her presence, and even in tough times she managed to keep her spirits high. Unfortunately, Markela's bright future and the love she shared with her children would be cut short. But the memory of who she was, a dedicated mother, a loving daughter, and a bright spirit, remains a testament to the woman she will always be remembered as. Benjamin Taylor, 34, they had been in a relationship with Michaela for several months, and from the outside, their life together seemed like a typical, albeit complicated, romantic dynamic. But behind closed doors, things were not as they appeared. Benjamin was known to those close to him as someone who struggled with anger and jealousy. Though no one could have predicted the horrific turn his relationship with Markela would take, there were hints of emotional volatility in their connection. He was not the father of Markela's children, but they lived together in the same apartment, a place that would soon become the site of an unimaginable tragedy. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Benjamin Taylor harbored a secret that no one could have guessed. What exactly led him to commit such a horrific act remains a mystery, something only he can answer. But one thing is certain: the person who was once trusted to love and protect Markela and her children ultimately betrayed that trust in the most brutal way possible. His actions left a family devastated and a community shaken.
I just want to say, I miss my baby. I miss my grandkids. She was a good person, and everybody knows Kaylin would do anything for you. She didn't deserve this. She did not deserve this. She was such a loving person. Everybody knew that and knew her. She was never a violent person. People took advantage of her because she was so kind-hearted. And that was my biggest fear, because I knew that.
Markela Johnson was a woman whose world revolved around her children. Miracle and Messiah were her everything. From the moment they were born, Markela dedicated herself to being the best mother she could be. She made sure they felt loved and safe, even when things were difficult. She had dreams of giving them a life full of happiness and stability, even if the road was sometimes tough. Markela wasn't perfect, but she was always striving to be better for her children. She took joy in the simple moments, playing with them, laughing, and cherishing every milestone. Being a mother was her greatest role in life, and nothing was more important to her than seeing her children thrive. But in the months leading up to the tragedy, things were far from easy. Markela had recently ended her relationship with Benjamin Taylor, the father of none of her children, but a man she had once trusted. The two had been living together in an apartment, trying to make a life for themselves. However, the relationship was strained. What had once seemed like a hopeful future began to unravel as tension built between them. They fought about little things, about big things. The emotional distance between them grew, and it became clear that the relationship wasn't working. Markela had made the difficult decision to ask Benjamin to leave. She wanted her life to be different, to be better, for her children. But what Markela couldn't have known was that asking Benjamin to leave would set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. The search for Markela Johnson and her children began with a growing sense of urgency. Family members were frantic. Days passed with no sign of Markela or her children, and the absence was becoming unbearable. On March 3rd, after weeks of no contact, the family officially filed a missing persons report with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. The police moved quickly, performing welfare checks at the apartment where Markela and her children had been living, but when they arrived, there was no answer. The apartment was silent, locked, and seemingly empty. Investigators couldn't find a trace of Markela or her children. This wasn't a simple missing persons case anymore. It felt like something deeper. Something fishy was at play. A maintenance worker trying to enter the apartment for a separate matter reported something unusual. The interior security lock on the door had been secured from the inside. When he called out, there was no response. This unsettling detail made investigators question if something terrible had happened behind those closed doors. The clock was ticking. The investigation shifted into full gear as police began looking into every possible lead. Surveillance footage from the area helped put together the last pieces of the puzzle. Investigators learned that Benjamin Taylor, Markela's boyfriend, had fled the state of North Carolina shortly after the family's disappearance. A grainy image from a bus station showed him boarding a bus bound for the West Coast, but the real breakthrough came on March 16th, when law enforcement received a tip that would lead them across the country. Benjamin Taylor was tracked down in California, 1,000 miles away from Charlotte. He was found in a remote desert area near the Mexico border, living in a makeshift camp. The police had their suspect, but why had he fled? What had happened to Markela and her children? These were the questions that weighed heavily on the investigators and on Markela's family, who were desperately waiting for answers. But what they would soon uncover would shatter their understanding of the man they thought they knew. As the investigation continued, the horrifying truth began to come to light.
Roll over. You got anything on you that we need to know about? Alright, knees up. Let's go. Let's go.
Stand still, don't move. So you're gonna take your foot back?
Yeah, that's fine. Alright. Alright. Put your sandals on. Here. Where's your ID at? Your personal belongings.
The investigation into the disappearance of Markela Johnson and her 2 young children deepened. The truth began to unravel in the most shocking and heart-wrenching way. The police had spent days searching, sifting through clues and chasing down leads, but when they finally gained entry to the apartment, they were met with a scene that no one could have predicted. A scene so disturbing that it would forever haunt those who encountered it. The first discovery was Markela's body, hidden away in a plastic storage container in her bedroom closet. The chilling fact that she had been placed there with such carelessness sent a wave of dread through the investigators. Why hide her body this way? Why not just leave it in the open? The answer to that question would remain elusive for a long time, but the sight of Markela's lifeless form was enough to shake everyone involved to their core. But as investigators combed through the apartment, piecing together what had happened in those final tragic hours, the horror of what had been done to her children became even more evident. Miracle, Markela's 4-year-old daughter, and her 7-month-old son, Messiah, had both been brutally taken from this world. But it wasn't just the manner of their deaths that shocked everyone. It was the condition in which their bodies were found, the signs of abuse and the telltale signs of drugs in their systems. Miracle's body was discovered in the trunk of Benjamin Taylor's car, hidden inside a travel bag, a place no child should ever be found. But the discovery of her bruises told a different story. The bruising around her neck and jaw was undeniable evidence that someone had held her down with force, perhaps even squeezed tightly, restricting her airways. Her tiny body showed signs of suffering, signs of struggle that no child should ever have to experience. The marks on her face suggested a deep physical altercation, the kind of violence that left an indelible mark on the soul. And then there was Messiah, the youngest of the family, just a 7-month-old infant. The revelation of his death was just as brutal. The toxicology reports confirmed the unthinkable. Messiah's body was filled with drugs. Fentanyl, the same substance that claimed the life of his mother, was found in his system. But that was far from the only thing. There were traces of cocaine, something that should never have been anywhere near a baby, let alone coursing through his tiny veins. But the drugs didn't stop there. Diphenhydramine and melatonin, substances known to sedate, were also found in his system. It became painfully clear that these drugs, along with the fentanyl, contributed to his death. It wasn't just a single factor that had taken his life. It was a combination of neglect and abuse that no one should ever have to face. The autopsies confirmed what investigators feared. Markayla, Miracle, and Messiah had all suffered before their deaths. The tragedy wasn't simply in their passing, it was in the brutality of how they were taken from this world. The abuse Miracle endured was staggering. The drugs that ended Messiah's life were unforgivable, and Markayla's death, her fentanyl overdose, was the final cruel blow. But what made this story even harder to understand was the one person who had once been part of their lives, someone they trusted, Benjamin Taylor. The man Markayla had chosen to let into her life, to share her home and raise her children with, was the very one who had taken it all away. What led him to commit such a heinous act? Was it the end of their relationship that pushed him over the edge? Or was there something more insidious brewing beneath the surface? Something Markayla couldn't have seen in time? The investigators couldn't answer that question, not yet. They could only piece together the evidence and try to make sense of the senseless. Taylor's flight to California only deepened the mystery, making it clear that this wasn't a crime of passion. This was something more calculated, something chillingly deliberate. Why flee to California? Why not face the consequences of his actions? As the police continued their search, the pieces of the puzzle started to form. Benjamin Taylor's history, his connection to Markayla, and the chilling details of the crime all came together in a way that left the investigators and the public shocked. But even with all the evidence, the biggest question remained. What could drive someone to kill a mother and her children? How could he justify the cruelty of his actions? It was a truth that no one could fully comprehend. This story, as difficult as it is to hear, is a reminder of how fragile life can be, and how one moment of darkness can shatter everything. Markayla, Miracle, and Messiah deserve so much more than the fate they met. This tragedy is a painful one, and it's hard to even imagine the weight of the loss that their family is carrying. I want to know what you think. How could something like this happen? What do you believe might have driven Benjamin Taylor to commit such a horrific act? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really like to hear your opinions on this one. If this case has left you feeling the same heartache, don't forget to show your support. Hit that like button, share this story with others, and subscribe if you haven't already. More stories like this are coming, and you won't want to miss them. Together, we can continue to shine a light on these heartbreaking yet important stories. Thank you for watching.